Oh, can I start?
Can you start?
You
Mate,
sure? Can I start?
I've carried this intro. So
Oh, mate, you must have some sore shoulders. Not because I weigh a lot, more because I've got nuts and bolts everywhere. You probably copped a few little injuries along the way, mate.
Yeah,
but hey, welcome back to another episode, the last episode of season 2 of Talkin Tough. Benny, it's bloody great to be here, mate.
it is, mate. And who have we got to thank if you're doing this intro? Who are we
We
brought to
are
you by?
thanking Ski for Life, brought to you by Ski for Life, the remarkable charity based in South Australia that's all about preventing suicide, giving back to the community and funding programs to give back to the community. Stuff like this.
Yeah, you nearly got there,
Stop right there. We're going to start again and we're going to go from the top.
What do you get when a legless lad and a blind bloke walk into a bar? A couple of mates on a mission to challenge what it means to be tough.
Welcome back to another episode of Talkin Tough, brought to you by the incredible South Australian charity Ski for Life. Benny, over to you. We're going to start again because that's an absolute chop show.
Nah, that was great, mate. I'll just add in the bits that you missed. This podcast is on a mission to redefine what it means to be tough, and Ski for Life is dedicated to promoting mental health, wellbeing and suicide prevention right across rural and regional Australia. Legless, mate.
Mate, that
it's
is
good to be here.
You're remarkable, mate. you just have that down pat. Now we went against the grain. We thought I'd kick off. That was a bad idea. We are going to get into this last episode of season 2. It's been an incredible season. I've had a hell of a lot of fun this season. We've had some wonderful guests, a really great diverse range of guests that we've had the pleasure of hearing them unpack their journeys, but more importantly, how they've come to this new definition of tough, which is, like you said before, we're on a mission to redefine what it means to be tough, not throw it out because it's helpful, that old school definition, but give it a new meaning, give it something a little bit more helpful, add a little bit to that meaning so that people, hopefully, things like this podcast, get people to have those conversations that truly matter.
Yeah, I think normalise having the conversations about the tough stuff. I think season 1, we obviously got to that end episode that we did of season 1 and we said, look, I reckon with what we've heard from everyone, like this new definition is very much that tough is talking, and I think that has just continued on because we've had moments in pretty much every single episode where we've gone far out, like this story or that experience. Like we can hear, we can feel in that room that it's tough to talk about for these people. And I think it's been a privilege to provide a space for people that feel comfortable to do so, which is cool. But not only that, also to showcase to, like you say, the people listening that it is okay to talk about the tough stuff and there's benefit in doing so.
And I reckon one of the things I'd love to do is just to think back, not just season 2, but season 1 as well. I want to thank every single guest that has come on there because many people behind the scenes sort of see what it's about. First of all, you're sitting there going, hey, we meet some wonderful people along the way. They'd be great to get on the podcast. That's the first thought. And then you sit there and you think, well, let's reach out to them and say, for instance, as an example, Waddy, right? Someone that has, grown up in rural regional areas, been on the land his whole life. He's not used to having a microphone in front of his face and then saying to him, hey, would you come and talk about your deepest, darkest, right? So I just want to take my hat off to every single guest that has taken the plunge and said, I'm going to go and have a chat about stuff that I probably don't talk about very often, and I'm going to do it in front of mics in an unusual environment, and then it's going to go out to all people that probably don't know the story I'm about to tell. I think from a bravery perspective and a toughness perspective, that is incredibly and extraordinarily tough, and probably something we haven't done. We thank our guests after an episode and that sort of stuff, but I think now, looking back, I just want to acknowledge the bravery of every single person that we've had on.
Absolutely, and I think that bravery goes to then the people that have gone off after listening to an episode, and I know we've had people reach out either after listening to an episode, listening to an entire series, or after a live conversation or session that we've had, and then they put out their hand and go, yeah, I'm going to show that same bravery that I've heard from our guests, and I'm going to talk about what I'm struggling with, the head noise that I've got going on. So like you said, talking about the tough stuff, massive thank you and shout out to each and every person we've had on. Like you say, mate, I think Big thing. And it's a big thing because we had some people that were nervous about the lights, the cameras, the mics, and that was quite foreign to them.
Yeah.
But then there was other people.
A few nervous bevies before he got in there.
100%.
Bricks.
Had to get a few beers down before getting into it.
That's all right. Whatever gets you through. And what a remarkable episode talking to him. Like he just spoke from the heart. And that's what is great. You know, we don't pick people that have got, huge profiles. We pick people that are real, raw, and have been through some tough stuff, but are still here and have some great stories to tell and stuff that people can learn from.
$1 Million Man being the exception there, Tommy Boyd. But
that's probably
shout
the
out
truth.
to him.
Yeah. But we've been, as always, wanted to check in. Big season. We've had a lot going on outside of work, family life, inside of work, and obviously everything in between. How are you travelling, Benno?
Yeah, good, mate. I am definitely feeling like at this point in the year, we've obviously got a big end of the year coming up with a few mates on emission programs lined up for the end of the year, but feeling like I can see light at the end of the tunnel from a winter's now in the rearview mirror point of view, which is good.
I feel like it.
And I think, we do live in Melbourne, so shout out to Melbourne, and it's 4 seasons in one day. That hasn't been more true than lately. But then I think not only that, mate, with the kids, they're starting to get that little bit older now that I wouldn't say it's getting easier, but they're starting to play together more.
Yeah.
Like the two girls, they're 3.5, nearly 4, and then 18 months old now. So it's quite nice for Amy and I to be able to go down to your room and play together. Yeah. And they actually go down to their room and play together. And you get that split second in a day of peace and quiet. And
do you sort of sit on the couch once that happens next to your beautiful wife Amy and just give her you look over and go, "Oh, g'day, my name's Ben," because those early years with the kids, like you really having those conversations where you sort of get to focus and spend time and building your relationship, they sort of disappear because you got so much else focusing, you're focusing all your attention and energy on so much else, aren't you?
100%. You don't feel like yourself. You feel like you talk a different language. It was only the other day where I was down doing a gig. We were on the way home and my parents picked up the girls from kinder and daycare and we're on loudspeaker, Bluetooth in the phone, and Evie's in the background. She's yelling out and she's going, "Oh, I did this and did that and did this." And Amy and I just interpreted everything she was saying, even though it was in complete gibberish.
Yeah.
And my old man just pipes up from in the car and goes, "Did you understand what she just said?" And I think it's in those moments that you go, our life is so consumed by these little people.
Yeah.
Like you end up talking a different language. And like you say, it's so nice to have them starting to grow up now where I can have a conversation that makes somewhat sense with the 3.5-year-old. And you do have those moments now where they're starting to interact together and we can feel like adults again ourselves in our own relationship, which is cool. Absolutely,
mate. And we've had plenty going on with work. Recently, we had a cool gig recently. We went down and presented to West by Northwest, Tourism Tassie presentation down in the remarkable, was it Paranaple Convention Centre down there in Devonport?
Yeah, Devonport.
But, mate, we were lucky enough, sorry.
No, they were lucky to have us.
They were lucky to have us, but we were lucky enough to get put up in the most amazing spot, right? So our wives obviously very jealous. We shoot over there for a few days or a couple of days.
And hey, before we get there, let's put our hand up and say we were a little bit sus going into it. And the reason we were sus, because more often than not, you've got a legless guy, you've got a blind guy coming down to do a gig, right?
Yeah.
And 99% of the time, the client, when they're booking us accommodation, sort of books us within walking distance or quite close to where the event's happening.
Would make sense.
But rather than that, we get this email saying, "Now, we've booked you out at a place called The Cove. Kim and Bruce, they're fantastic. It's a farm stay. It's about a 10-minute drive out of Devonport. And they've got some great new little cabins set up on their farm out there." And we're going, okay, like this is going to logistically make things a little bit tricky from getting to and from town. We're not hiring a car. What's going to be involved here? Well, we'll go with it. Like beggars can't be choosers. And obviously we're grateful for the client to organise the accommodation, but weren't we wrong?
I think they really didn't paint the picture, did they?
No.
And we rock up, and this place is absolutely off the charts. Beautiful, right? It's set on an old farm, old homestead. They've been there how long? Since 1850, I think.
1850s. It's been in the family.
Unbelievable. Overlooking, you look to your left, you've got full coastline. You look to your right, and there's these massive sort of hills that all the penguins run up at the end of the night. And then you look out and across Bass Strait, and the view is spectacular. And what's wonderful was she was really considerate of you, knowing that you were the blinder and I had low legs. And what did she do, Benno?
Mate, we rolled in there. It was an absolute crack up, wasn't it? When we wander into the little reception there, we've been picked up by, she called it the courtesy bus, but it was her husband, Bruce, that came and picked us up from the airport. And he goes, Mike and Ben, and we go, how'd you pick it?
Yeah.
And he goes, well, I got told I was picking up a legless guy and a blind guy, and there's not many of those that rock up off the plane in Devonport. He was an absolute gun. Yeah. Had nothing to do with the accommodation side of things. He just loved being a farmer. Yeah. Dropped us off at the reception where his wife Kim took over, and she was an absolute character. Said, right, we've won an award for accessibility in our rooms, but we've only got one accessible room. Who needs that? And we sort of paper, scissors, rocked. That one, you ended up with the accessible room. She goes, that's good, Ben, because I've put you in the room with the view.
But straight face though, right?
100%.
Yeah, she was just like, yeah.
Rub it in, Kim.
Yeah, and then she sort of realised, and she's like, oh, I'll put her head in her hands. But she was rough, but like she was a weapon. Like what she's been able to do in terms of building this amazing retreat, like a destination in a part of the world that's probably not known for it and is starting to become known for it. And it's just remarkable. The cabins were state of the art. The restaurant that they're building there, which is opening soon, it's a venue for weddings and whatnot. The place is out of control. So shout out to Kim and Bruce. If you're ever looking to get a little bit of a private getaway, switch your phone off, get in one of the cabins. It's accessible for everyone, as you said before. They just have the most amazing setup, and they'll certainly look after you.
Yeah, we had a ripper time down there. Great gig with West by Northwest, which was sort of more around the work we do in resilience, access and inclusion from a tourism point of view. And then we've had a shitload of other stuff on, mate. We've been here, there and everywhere. We've been up to, what have we done? Up to Rockhampton. We did a Meat and Livestock Australia gig up there earlier in the year.
The Southern Grass-Fed Carcass Classic.
That's forget that one. The Southern Grass-Fed Carcass Classic.
Dragged the old man. So very close with my old man. And I said, this, as we always sort of say, out in rural and regional, Benny doesn't do much. He's not much chop when it comes to helping with the driving. So I'm always driving. So we said, hey, let's drag along the old man. So we drove over to Lucendale in South Australia, and they were a great group too. So it was fantastic to be able to talk. One of the things that stuck out to me was we heard from the Royal Flying Doctor Service at the start. They played a video. They talked about what they do and the service they provide for people on the land right around Australia, and that blew me away. What a wonderful service and such a valuable thing for Australia, and has been for so many years.
Yeah, they do some bloody good work, and they're also doing some great work now in the mental health and wellbeing space, and some of the services and support they provide there right around the country as well, which is awesome. And then we've had all our standard gigs made, our corporates, our schools, and everything like that. And it's been great. You had your trip over to the States.
Went over to the States again. A bit impromptu. Went over for a few weeks just for a debrief, and then came back into the winter. Here we are. We're recording the last episode for season 2. But as we said before, some of those guests, be great to do a bit of a recap. Sort of what did we get out of that? And from our perspective, but also, as always, encourage the listeners if they've got some feedback and what was your favourite episode? What did you gain from it? Was there anything really insightful? Was there something that was said that changed your perspective on a particular way that you view, challenges and tough stuff in your life? Always love to hear that, but I'd love to run through them and do a bit of reminiscing. We did have some spectacular conversations this season, and it kicked off with our great mate Dave. Battles Beyond the Battlefield. What a great title for his session, wasn't it, mate?
Yeah, it was an awesome yarn, mate, and I think, as you said, when we are going through the episodes, it's one of those things that it's all well and good to listen to the episode, and then maybe for some people you go back and listen to it again. But we thought it was really important today to sort of sit down And for us to go back through and dissect some of the...
Because you miss it sometimes in the moment, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. And some of the things that you go, now I've listened to that once, twice, 3 times, that's really stuck with me, or that story still makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. So I think it was something that we really wanted to do today was just recap. And for some of you listening, you may not have listened to Dave's episode yet. So
no spoilers.
That's it. You might go, oh, shit, I'm going to go back and listen to that because that sounds really intriguing. And he just had this ripper story about obviously going through the ranks in the military, ending up setting his sights on joining the S.A.S. and taking us through his career there, some of the graphic stuff he's seen, some of the stereotypically tough stuff that he did as part of his role, from selection process all the way through, and sort of the cool thing he shared was obviously how it had changed, but also some of the toughest things he's seen, I think probably surprised me, because he was, as I said, S.A.S. Like, we think big, macho, tough. We're thinking bullets flying past you in the heat of battle over in Iraq, Afghanistan, all the places that he'd been. But when he shared that the toughest thing he has ever seen is one of his fellow S.A.S. soldiers, one of his comrades, putting his hand up and saying, hey, I'm not okay.
Yeah, that was a great moment.
I'm doing it tough. My head's not right. I need help. And finally sort of having that moment of going, okay, everyone's telling me that I'm grumpy, an arsehole, shit to be around, short fused, and actually acknowledging it himself, because as Dave said, like, you're so consumed in that job that you just have to be tough. It's bred into you, it's trained into you that toughness is ingrained. But then for him to go, even though I've been trained to be tough, the toughest thing I need to do now is actually go, no, I actually need to stop and go and get some help here.
Yeah.
I think for me that was something that was really cool. What stood out for you, mate?
Look, I think the conversation itself was just really enjoyable. It didn't feel like we were in front of the mics. Like, you're just having a chat with him, just ripping bloke.
I never feel like I'm in front of the mics because I can't see the things.
But honestly, just a fascinating sort of... and something that I don't know a lot about, never, haven't walked that path. And I think the thing that stood out to me is, doesn't matter what you look like or what you do for a profession, is that you can't extract the human out of a human, I think was the big message, right? Because that's sort of set up to train them to be soldiers and not to be emotional. But at the end of the day, that's a lot easier said than done. And they come back with a lot of memories, a lot of scars, and it's really difficult to adjust. And what he's doing in terms of getting people back into work and giving them a sense of purpose is a wonderful thing. But the message was around not trying to fight it too much. I think it was, for me, it was like saying, well, we're trained to do a job and we can execute that job. But at the end of the day, when the dust settles, no matter where you go in life, if you've been through something tough, and a lot of people have, everyone has, you still got to deal with those things at some point down the line. And I think that was a real message from me, is saying, well, you can try and hide it, you can sweep it under the rug, but you do have to deal with it. You do have to admit that, you are affected by things. You can't just ignore things and hope that they go away by themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, shout out to what he's doing now with veterans in construction, doing some amazing work, giving people that are coming back from being overseas, being on duty, and being on tour, they come back and are quite often lost because it's all they've known from more often than not 18 years old, like being in such a regimented routine of a career, and then you come back and you lose that sense of purpose. And I think for what he's doing, to be able to identify that these guys are so highly trained but in such a unique set of skills that is so transferable to so many different industries, but it's not your standard uni degree.
But it takes like a little bit of common sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like if you're an employer and a guy comes up to you and goes, look, I don't have an official qualification that's on Seek, right?
Yeah.
That you've advertised that you need
I can dodge bullets.
X, Y, and Z. He goes, but what I do have is I have this skill set. You'd hope that if someone, like that rocks up and you've got a job that they'd be perfect for, that common sense prevails and you say, yeah, absolutely, mate. When can you start?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So, no, that was was a ripper conversation, and obviously that metaphor at the end there and the analogy he uses with a lot of the guys that now he has working for him,
Yeah.
which is, hey, when you are struggling, when you are doing it tough, like just that metaphor that I think relates to blokes so well. And Mary has an amazing sort of suite of metaphors that she uses as well, which is, hey, if you're in your car, don't just keep driving it. If the service light pops up, pull over and
it's great.
Put it on a tow truck, go and get a service before you end up with smoke coming out of the engine and you're out in the middle of nowhere with no help. So I think that from a bloke's point of view as a metaphor was something that definitely resonated for me too, because I've definitely been guilty of having that service light come up.
Carry on, mate.
Having that
shit to do.
Fuel tank come down close to empty and going, I'll just push on, I'll push on.
Yeah.
We talk about it a lot and just do something for you. Like you've got to refill the tank.
Yeah, it's sort of like sometimes it's just sort of, it's about the awareness piece, right? Like you've got to make sure that you are aware that when you are, it's hard to sort of work out how much is in the tank. We don't have a gauge, fitted to our hip that we can just look down and go, oh shit, getting a bit low here.
Yeah, that's it. We don't have a notification that goes off 20% battery remaining. Yeah. Turn on low power mode.
Yeah, but you don't want to let it get to a point where you're like, oh shit. Like you are down and out, and then you're burnt out, then you're in a bit of strife. So making sure that you monitor that and get the help that you need when you need it, it's really important too. But great conversation. And then I remember one of our next guests, which was awesome, is someone that we know that we've been close with for quite some time. And I would say for me and you, Benny, maybe even maybe a mother-like figure to us potentially. We've got Katie and Sue, but we've also got Jane, don't we?
Oh, yeah. Mother, auntie, mate.
And I reckon there'd be about, 20,000 South Australians that might call Jane mum as well. So she's probably just got that sort of vibe to her. She's the matriarch of the community. She's got so much knowledge, speaks from the heart. She's a no-nonsense too, though. She'll tell you straight. Like, if you're bullshitting, she'll tell you about it. And, a wonderful person to learn from. She wasn't... she wasn't someone that we had on the radar straight away. We originally, I remember yonks back, we looked at having a chat with Greg, her husband, who we met and spent time with. But what a great conversation with Jane, talking about what it's actually like, living, on the land.
Yeah, big time, mate. And I think big thank you to her, because what everyone didn't hear that day was her rocking up. We had everything set up.
Yep.
And we said, how you going, mate? And she burst into tears.
Yeah, shocking.
And that's how hard life has been on the land this year, especially for a lot of people from South Australia, Western Vic, and in other areas as well from a drought point of view.
Yeah.
It has been bloody tough. And we asked about how she was going. We asked about how Greg was holding up, how the family was, and it was just tears. It was slumped into us, embraced, cuddle, and we said, mate, we don't have to do this today.
No.
We do not have to talk. We can go down to the pub for lunch, have a drink, have a wine, and just catch up, because you are more important than getting behind a mic and talking to everyone here today. And credit to her, she goes, no, I really want to do this. I think this is important. There's so many other people that are in this situation right now too, and I do want to talk about how tough it is.
Probably need to hear what she had to say too.
Yeah, big time.
Help a lot of people. And I think we talk a lot about the word resilience. And sometimes you meet people and you sort of sit there and think, you should be the one talking about this stuff. Because the last thing in the world Jane probably wanted to do that day, given all the things you just stated, down and out, didn't feel like probably getting up and chatting about it and keep putting on a brave face, as we talk about all the time. She pushed back. We said, we don't have to do it. But she got up there and she said, nope, I've committed to it. And she got up there and she was honest, open, poured her heart out, and hats off to her for doing that.
Big time. I think she was super vulnerable. And from me, just some of the real insight she gave to life on the land, the pressure they feel, how unique the industry is. We've got a lot of farming communities, farming families, farmers' wives that tune in and listen to Talkin Tough, and we obviously have all of those people in mind, and that's why we make sure that we get someone like Jane and then Mary on, because it is very much in that sort of space, and we know we've got plenty of other listeners from all different walks of life, but I think the unique nature from a mental health point of view of farming as a profession, so to speak, and we talked about it on the episode, is there's no switching off.
No.
work is home, home is work.
Yep.
When work is shit, you walk through the door at home and you're looking out the kitchen window and you're looking at
There's
work.
no escape, is there?
There is absolutely no escape. And I think the fact that Jane was saying how intentional she has to be with making sure that both her and her dragging Greg away from the farm is from a reset and a refresh point of view. But I think that's also transferable to any job that is starting to weigh you down or any aspect of life that's starting to weigh you down.
It's about unplugging, isn't it?
Yeah.
Disconnecting.
And actually stepping away.
It's got to be a relief, like just got to let a little bit of pressure off from time to time.
Yeah, if you're getting 200 emails a day from work and you get to the end of the week, but you still have those email notifications popping up on your phone on the weekend because some people work over the weekend, you've got people in different time zones and they're pinging off from WA emails at midnight and then someone from New Zealand's emailing you at 3 a.m. because they're already up and going.
Yeah.
Like, when do you switch off? When
it's
do you
about
step
boundaries
away?
though, isn't it? But as you said very well before, it's really difficult to set boundaries if you're a farmer and you're in season. Like there's things to be done, jobs, and you're at the mercy of the weather on top of that, which has been so difficult for them in South Australia. One of the things that I think came through to me is, the decisions that are made that affect them out in the land by people that probably don't know the true ins and outs of what they go through on a daily basis and the frustration that must come with that. Going out there and seeing what they're experiencing and knowing them and how tough they're doing it, that really put that into perspective. They're good, salt of the earth, family people that are just busting their ass to do the best they can and to provide for their families. And I just think that thing that really sticks out to me is the lack of control and influence that they have on certain areas of their life must be really challenging and incredibly tough. And you can see why so many people, are doing it tough. And, the statistics around mental health, wellbeing and suicide are what they are out in the land.
Yeah, and I think to that point, mate, like you say, I think as Jane said so well is we just want to provide good food and fibre for the country.
Yeah.
And we don't eat without the farmers. Like there's probably not quite enough gratitude some of the time for what these guys do.
Yeah.
We don't survive without them. Yet sometimes from a support point of view,
it's almost just expected, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, they've done it for generations and generations, and they'll just keep doing
Where's
it.
me meat?
And that's what farmers do. They're tough, right?
Yeah, it's bullshit.
They're tough, but they're also in a bloody tough industry. So we need to wrap our arms around them. And for me, the answer that Jane gave to what does tough mean now to you, I think is something that I'm still not good at. And that was just the ability to say no. Instead of saying yes to everything and everything that everybody asks of you. And we're all selfless people by nature. We want to help people. We want to go, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, I'll be there. Yep, I'll do that presentation. Yeah, sure, I can leave that presentation, get in a cab, get to the airport. Yeah, I might miss my flight, but I'll jump on that. I'll fly here and then I'll
spread yourself too thin.
100%. Yeah. And then you're coming home and then you've already burnt out, so you're not showing up for the family and the people that are important to you. So having the ability and learning the ability to say no to certain things, not to everything, obviously, but again, as you said before, mate, setting those boundaries. And I think...
But often when you say yes to other people, sometimes the flip side of that is you're saying no to yourself because your time's...
Absolutely.
Then like that's the worst thing. Like, we always talk a lot about be selfish so that you can be selfless. Like fill your tank first, make sure that you're right to go. And that old analogy we just spoke about before with the old, the fuel tank, the gauge, when that's on empty, well, fill your tank up first so that you can do what you need to do to the best of your ability. Like it makes so much sense, and she put that really well.
We'll obviously
it's a powerful word, that no.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll obviously get to Mary's episode, but it just made me sort of think when you said that, which is that whole message of are you bogged, mate, and getting somebody else to tow you out of the bog.
Yeah.
How do you tow somebody else out of the bog if you've got no fuel left in the car?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. You need to make sure that you're looking after yourself so you can be the best version of yourself, but also help the other people along the way, because if we've all got no energy, we're all no good to anyone.
100%. Then we had Wardy. Wardy was pretty in your face. Amazing story and confronting. I must say, I'd never met Wardy before. Having him on and hearing his story, literally, did I just get hit by a truck? Like that was the title of the episode. And the way that he was able to unpack that and share about what must have been one of the most terrifying experiences of your life. You know, you're seeing it hurtling down the road, slow motion, and all of a sudden the worst has happened, and, you know, all of a sudden your life's sort of changed in many ways.
If you haven't had a listen, make sure you go back, because I think it was so unique. I think I said it in the conversation that I think we spent 35, 40 minutes talking about a 30-second period of time in his life.
Yeah.
Which
is probably relived for, you know, 1,000 hours since.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Like
but it's had such a significant impact.
Yeah.
And you could hear the raw emotion of every single millisecond of hearing it, to the decision to jump, to getting hit, to not knowing where Nikki was, and Nikki being his wife, like the emotional roller coaster that was, and the aftermath, the impact. And I think for me, the big thing that came out of that was, and you know this just as well as I do, mate, like life can change in an instant.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the gratitude for him that has come out of that, like you said, he was an introverted kid. He was shy. He had a bit of probably anxiety, very nervous, not outgoing, wasn't that ball of energy that he is now and is today. And that moment taught him that we can't take life for granted. Yeah. And I mean, he's taken it to a whole nother level where he wakes up every day and goes, right, let's get it. Like today's my day, and I'm going to dominate. Now, he's still got days where he doesn't feel like that, but it's amazing how quickly life can change, and the lessons that are there that it can teach us, if I suppose we're willing to take them.
I think you put it really well. I think one of the things that life doesn't always go according to plan. We know that. Things can jump up, they can bite you. But I think that the questions that you ask matter in those moments and the aftermath. You know, you can sit there and you can be focused on the luck side of things.
Yep.
And you think about that situation, that's just pure bullshit, bad luck, right? Is it wrong place, wrong time?
Yep.
Like far out. You haven't done anything wrong. You haven't walked under a ladder. You haven't killed a cat. Like whatever. He's done nothing wrong, and he's just all of a sudden put in a situation where that he's just got some shit luck, and he can sort of get stuck on the wrong side of the ledger there. Like he can sit there and go, "Why'd this happen to me?" Stuck in that resistance phase where he's just trying to, trying to explain the unexplainable. But one thing I love about Wardy and his energy is he's able to look back at it and take the positives and say, well, it could have been worse. You know, I could be dead. And he's been able to reframe that experience that he's had, which could have gone either way, and done something positive with it. And I thought that was really powerful from him.
I totally agree, mate. And I think the other thing that stood out for me was he sort of challenged us a little bit, which was talking about what helped him through. And he said, I know you guys talk about don't compare. And he said, but for me, that was sort of quite helpful in going, there is someone worse off than me in this hospital ward. Yep. And in that exact scenario, 20 metres down the road, there was someone far worse off than him.
Which is true,
which was absolutely tragic. So he had these sort of close examples of people that and situations that were in his head worse off, and for him that helped. And I think I was having a chat with Mary O'Brien on the phone just the other day, and listening to one of her podcast episodes, and they were having a similar conversation, which was around comparison can sometimes be good if all it does is help to gain perspective. Whereas when you're comparing and you're turning it into a competition of who's worse, who's better, that's when it's unhelpful. So if it helps you gain some perspective and helps you sort of shift your focus from either a victim mentality to a, hey, I'm not as bad, I need to focus on what I've got rather than what I don't, then that can be a really helpful thing.
Yeah.
And I think that for Wardy was definitely the case. So he didn't turn it into a competition of going who's worse, who's better, but it really helped him get through those early moments of, I am lucky to be here, and it could have been worse. He could have lost his, like he said, sitting in front of you, I could have lost my legs completely. I could have been dead. And I think that's definitely carried on for him, which is pretty cool.
It was a powerful conversation. I really enjoyed it. It was quite a shocking, like it was that experience. You know, the way he was able to paint the picture, and you could actually see sort of the things unfolding in your head. You know, using your imagination. I'm sure the listeners probably felt the same. But Like you said, being able to unpack that. And I like that point too around, if you are making comparisons and saying, I could be, and it's using it for good, then more power to you. Then go ahead and do that. And it can be a powerful thing. But as you said, when you start to sort of compete and sort of grass is greener over the other side all the time, it can get a little bit unhelpful. So, yeah, good message in there.
Yeah, when you are comparing, just make sure you're aware of the impact that the comparison you're making is having.
Absolutely.
If it's having a negative impact on the way you're feeling,
making
then
you feel shit about yourself.
Maybe don't keep comparing your situation to somebody else's. But if it's making you see the good in your situation, then it's probably helping and it's gaining some perspective. So, no, that was cool, mate. And I think the identity and belonging bit there in that whole thing of just having his world turn upside down from a captain of the footy club, a career, being a builder, and all of that just being
upended,
upended, and the sort of process of being comfortable in his own skin again and finding his purpose. Yeah. Similar to that conversation with what Dave does in giving purpose, like that piece around purpose is so important.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And then we had Mary, who's an absolute pro, superstar, someone that goes against the grain, plain speaking, and doing some remarkable things, against the grain, as I said before, not necessarily endorsed by the traditional schools of thought, but what she's doing works and people resonate, and she's got the proof. She goes out there and she has breakthroughs with people and improves lives. And I think that conversation alone, if you didn't get something out of that, then you're not going to get You're not going to get anything out of a conversation around mental health, because she had some wonderful analogies and gave some really great examples as to why it's important to speak in that language to people out there on the land. And I just take my hat off to the work that she does.
Bloody oath. And she just keeps it simple, doesn't she? Like,
absolutely.
There was never a moment where in that conversation it went for, I don't know, just under an hour and a half. There was never a moment that I sat there and thought,
we better wrap this up or anything.
Or what word was that?
Yeah.
Like, so often when you're in this, like, and it is a mental health space or industry, or like that's nearly what it's become now. But when sometimes you're listening to people talk about it, it becomes too technical about how the brain's working, and I'm sure all that has something to do with it. But when you're just trying to get real people that struggle with tough stuff in life to be okay with recognising essentially the impact that it's having on them, and comfortable enough to either talk about it, seek help, whatever they've got to do. But let's not overcomplicate it.
But by talking like that, she breaks down a lot of the stigma as well. Like, she's talking about a subject in a way that she can understand. Because if you're chatting to those guys, if you're chatting to those guys, and then they're faced with the prospect of seeking help, for example, and then they go and they speak to someone that is not able to speak on their level and in language they can understand, and there's a little bit of technicality around, technical terms around what they're experiencing and diagnoses or whatever it looks like, it's not going to cut through. And that's the one thing that, Mary does so beautifully. And when she got there, it's like there wasn't really a recording of sorts. We just had a conversation, and Mary is no different from the time before the mic, before she sits down in front of the mic, to the time that she leaves and gets in her car and heads off. Like, she is just who she is, and unapologetic, and does some wonderful work. So she's the real deal for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. She's doing some amazing work. So shout out to her. And we're actually bloody lucky to get her on the podcast, mate.
Oh, how busy.
She's all over the shop. But when we caught up at Ski for Life, funny story, we were at the Cobdogler Club, so at the halfway point of the Ski for Life event. So on sort of the second last night, everyone comes together, has a great meal at the pub there, and they do an auction and whatnot. And anyway, she had spoken the night before on the Friday night at the event, given a bit of an update of some of the work she'd done, the impact she was having, hangs out for that whole day through our ceremony, comes to the Saturday night event, and we're having a bit of a yarn, and she's got her podcast, Are You Bog Mate? We've got Talkin Tough, and we were talking about how it was all going, and we said we should try and coordinate it, because obviously she's from Dalby in Queensland. We're from down here in Vic. We should try and coordinate it while you're down this way at some point. We'll jump on your potty, you jump on ours. That'd be great. And she goes, yeah, we should definitely do that. I'm going to be around for the next couple of weeks around Victoria. Let's see what we can make happen. Here's a business card. Call me.
Yeah.
And I've gone, mate, what am I meant to do with this? And she had that moment of going, did I just give a blind bloke a business card? And I said, hey, if I had a business card, I'd give it to you. That probably works a little bit better.
She would. I don't think she would have given it. She wouldn't have lost any sleep over that too. She's pretty. Yeah, she's like, get over it, mate. She's,
that's
she's
it.
pretty.
She goes, well, what are we going to do here? I said,
character.
how about you just give me your number?
She's a ripper.
It was a ripper yarn, and thanks to her for making the effort, because I think she was in Bendigo at the time. Drove an hour and a half down for the yarn, and it was
big effort.
Yeah,
doesn't mind a drive, Mary.
Loves the car. Loves a couple of kilometres.
Yeah, she loves it. So she came down, had a good chat. We reciprocated, and hopefully people got a bit out of that.
What stuck out for you in that chat, mate?
Well, I just think the way that she's able to, give you these visuals when she's talking. I've heard Mary speak a couple of times live, and every single time I get something new out of it, and I can see why so many people can relate. So, and I think it's just a no-nonsense, get things done type approach. And if there's a barrier, it's almost like a red rag to a bull with Mary. I feel like as soon as someone puts a roadblock off or says that what she's doing, isn't going to work, I reckon that just makes her more determined to get it done and to start changing and having an impact and changing the way, the numbers that we're seeing around Australia around suicide and suicide prevention. She gave some really great practical tips around signs to look out for and those sorts of things, and anecdotal stuff too. So where that works. And I think the biggest thing I got, rather than messages and metaphors, take that aside, I think that the bog breaks that she does, the power of those was really good, because it's scalable, where she's doing this amazing work with people in various communities, and then they're going back to their communities, and I've no doubt that they are then sharing what they've learned with their communities, and that's having a flow-on effect. So I think it's hats off to what she's been able to achieve. Yeah,
big time. So if you are having a listen and you're not familiar with Mary O'Brien's work, just Google Are You Bog Mate or check it out on socials. And if you have been doing it tough, as you just said, mate, that the bog breaks that she's offering now, fully funded, trip to get away and switch off and really tackle some of that head noise. You can take a mate, you can nominate a mate. There are no costs other than getting to your closest airport. That it's not meant to put any financial pressure on. So I think that's a great thing, and there'll be more bog breaks coming in years to come. So make sure you chuck your name down or apply for that as well. So I think it's having an awesome impact. I actually caught up not long ago with, I reckon, 6 blokes that had been on one of the bog breaks last year, and they all just said one of the best weekends we've ever had, and needed it. Like, the impact that it's had has been huge.
Yeah.
And they also now all catch up, all from all around
Bonds
the state.
for life,
yeah, that's it. It was very cool.
Otherwise, probably never even catch up or meet each other, really, would it?
Yeah.
So unbreakable bonds that she's creating. It's awesome.
Yeah, fantastic, mate.
And then we had Maddie, our good mate from South Australia. But the reason we chose Maddie was just because he's just a beautiful man. He's a beautiful man in so many different ways. He has a beautiful family. Softly spoken, spoke from the heart. There was moments there that was I genuinely, I think me and you probably had tears in our eyes as well. I think there were some really deep moments, and hats off to Matt for feeling comfortable enough to share those. But Matt's had a journey, hasn't he? Even from when he was a young tacker with his own health, right through to now, and battling obviously the sleep side of things. I think people could relate to, and him unpacking what that means and what that looks like for him in his life and the impact it has on his mental health was really, really interesting. And the title of the episode, Open to Being Open, I love that too, because you and I, when we're out and about in travelling, speaking, one of the key messages and one of the things we speak about from time to time is the psychology side of things. So receiving professional help and people's reluctance to do so. And I always put my hand up and say, I definitely do. I think it's something that can help, and I think that's what, talking to Maddie, that shined through loud and clear. It's like saying, we should always be open to every single thing that gets put in front of us. You can say no to it, but try it first. Like, be open to something that may be able to help you get out of a tough spot or to make your life a little bit easier, because we all know from the people we meet, I know, everybody knows who listens, life is tough. If there's something out there that can help you, why not be bloody open to it, mate?
Hey, just be open in life. Right?
Yeah. Open-minded.
100%. I was down at Mum and Dad's place last night and we had dinner down there.
Yeah.
And Mum goes, "Oh, I know you got to rush off with the kids, get them home, school night, daycare, kinder, whatever. But got a big tray of Portuguese tarts here. Do you want to take one home?"
Did you bring any? I can't bloody see any here, mate.
Well, mate, this is why. I said, no, I don't like Portuguese tarts.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Oh, don't you?" Oh, I said, no, like, leave them here. That's all good. Don't need them. And I said to Amy just before we left, I said, "Oh, Mum's offered us some Portuguese tarts, but I said we don't need it." And she goes, "What? I would love a Portuguese tart." I said,
so do I, yeah. They're great.
What do you mean? And she goes, "Well, like, they're beautiful. They got custard in them." I said, "Custard?" I said, "Hang on a minute. What is a Portuguese tart?"
Oh, you didn't know what one was?
I'd never had one.
Mate, they're about these days, they're about $6 each, and they're this really beautiful little puff pastry thing with custard in the middle. What do you think they were?
I was thinking more like the Christmas sort of mince pie sort of setup.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay.
I don't know why. Like, I had no idea why that was in my head.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how naturally my brain just went closed off to that. Don't want a Portuguese tart.
Shit house.
Don't like the sound of it, so I don't want one. I don't know if it was the word tart, what it was.
Yeah. Did you think it was savoury or?
I had no idea.
Yeah,
had no idea. And my brain just said no. Rather than going, actually, what is it? Or what does it taste like? Or
Good
tell
lesson.
me about it.
Yeah.
I didn't ask any questions. I just said, no, I don't want a Portuguese tart. I've never had one before. I've never tried one, but I don't think I'd like it.
Yeah.
And sitting here now, I go, that's probably no different. Like, why didn't I just say, tell me about a Portuguese tart.
Yeah.
What is it? And then get explained puff pastry, custard. Custard is one of my favourite things in the entire world. And I would have gone, give me two, which after Amy said they're the best thing ever.
Did you have one?
I had two, and that's why there's none sitting here today.
Here in front of us. Well, I appreciate that. Just want to let
You're
you know.
welcome.
But lesson learned.
Sorry, I digress. But yeah, open to being open was definitely something that
and like with young kids too,
through.
right? Like, it's the same thing where you try and put everything in front of them, get them to try it once, and it's obviously easier said than done. But it's the same thing in life. Like, there's certain things that sometimes you sit there and you're closed off to them, then you try them and go, why haven't I done that earlier? Like, why didn't I do that sooner? Like, if you ask yourself that question, why didn't I do that sooner? You're not open-minded enough, right? Because you just
big time.
Just have a crack. Because if you have a crack and you don't like something, piss it off. Like, that's okay. You've tried it. And then if someone says, "Oh, why don't you like eating oysters?" "Oh, I tried them once. I spat it out. Tastes like shit." Like, that's fine. But as long as you actually have a crack at something first.
As long as you try them.
And that was what it was for me with talking to Maddie. There was so many different things that he's tried and he's open to, and he's probably still exploring.
Meditation,
hypnosis, ways in which he can improve himself and make his life better, so that he can be. We spoke about filling up the tank. All the messages are, they all have similar threads right throughout the series in different ways. And I love that so much. I think that's, that idea of him exploring and being open to doing different things, so that he can be a good dad, which is important to him, and be a good father and a husband and all the rest of it. So it was a great conversation. And I must say, out of all our guests, Maddie was maybe the most nervous. Probably didn't come across that way, but getting out there and pouring his heart out, brave effort, and well done, Matthew. I love you.
Yeah, well, he's got 100%. He's got a lot of anxiety, and he was very apprehensive.
Yeah.
He's pacing around before sitting down, and we're saying to him, "Mate,
he's good.
You don't have to do this if you don't want to." He goes, "Oh, no." And even when his episode came out, I remember speaking to him. He goes, "I don't think I'll listen." I haven't even told my wife that it's coming out. I said, "Well, mate, you better, because if you don't tell her, she's going to hear it from someone else." He's like, "Oh, shit, will she?" I said, yeah. There's a lot of people that listen from right around the country. I think she's going to hear it from one aspect or the other.
He'll be surprised how many people will relate and be thankful for listening to that conversation. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, and a lot of people have messaged us and said how much they resonated with that particular episode. I think not discrediting, say, someone like Wardy getting hit by a truck, but it's no different to when people hear a meningococcal story, losing your eyesight
hard to
overnight.
relate in some ways.
There is a bigger gap between just life in general. And I think for Matt, it was just the pressure of parenting, running a business, coping with stress and trying different things, and then also raising kids and how to raise kids in a way that you're happy with and you feel like you're supporting them and you're not encouraging them to be too tough. All of that sort of came into it, and I think that made it really relatable for people. And yeah, like you said, mate, that finish of "I love you" and not being afraid to say it to your mates is awesome. Something that I'm definitely finding myself doing, not even just with Matt, but a number of different people.
Like
now,
anything, mate, it gets comfortable after a while, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You sort of, when you first say it, you go, well, that was a bit strange.
Bit awkward.
But a little, and then now it's just, run of the mill, and I think it's a sweet thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, you're letting your mates know that you love them, you care about them. And I think that's a really great little thing that Matty's brought into our lives for sure, and hopefully people are adopting it Australia-wide.
Yep, big time. Yeah, love it. It's good. It's good. And then we had Mike, mate, the brother-in-law.
We did have the brother-in-law. He's a champ, Mike. Hats off to him for coming on. Again, probably a bit hesitant, but when he got up there and he spoke from the heart, and obviously a totally different story and a different narrative from other guests in the past, and it was a wonderful thing to get him on. Obviously, he's my brother-in-law, so I had the pleasure of watching you unpack his story and you seeing it for the first time. Pretty remarkable beginning about how he found himself in Australia, but him talking about some of the things that help him get through some of the most extreme things that he has to see being a professional firefighter on a daily or on a weekly, on a monthly basis. He's seen it all. Being able to remove yourself from that and then focus on working on yourself, processing that in an effective way so that it doesn't have an impact and leak into your personal life. That's got to be a complex thing to do. And it was really fascinating listening to what's in place, what works for him, what works for others, and unpacking his story. It was, I feel like that was a really great conversation as well.
Yeah, it was, mate. I think the stigma within the industry that was there when he sort of first signed up and first started, and then even prior to that when he was in the military, it was very much the coping mechanism was go to the pub. Like he said when he was in the military early days, that was on a Friday night if you had to decompress, if you saw some shit go down during the week, the process was let's go to the pub and let's drink it away.
Yep.
And how that's changed in his life, and he's sort of understood and learnt the importance of being aware enough to know when his job or when what he's seen is having an impact, a negative impact on the way he's feeling, on his mental health, on his mindset, on his energy, on him being a husband, him being a dad, and not being the type of husband and dad that he wants to be, and going, yeah, I need to be big enough here that when my wife's saying, hey, you probably blew up at our kid there.
Yeah, take it easy.
Yeah, for something that they put their cup on the bench, not in the dishwasher. Whatever it happened to be, like it's not that big of a deal. It probably didn't deserve the blow up that you gave it.
Something sit behind it though, and I think that was and knowing him, and obviously my nieces and nephews he's talking about there, I think that was a really brave thing to talk about. You and I are fathers. It's a pretty sobering thing to admit that there's been times when you haven't been the best dad. And there's probably been times when you sleep deprived, I'm sure in your situation and my situation, when you have got a bit short with your missus or, the people that you care for the most. And I think that it's really, really mature and a wonderful thing that Mike's been able to get to a place where he's able to sort of see when work's creeping up on him and being able to sort of recognise that and take action as opposed to letting that spill over into, probably behaviour that he's not overly happy with.
Yeah, and he said he learnt that the hard way. The sort of leaving it until it got to sort of boiling over point, which was very much like that was the first time that he went and finally put his hand up and said, I need to get some support here, need to get some help. But then seeing the help that gave him and the impact that had, he goes, this actually is really helpful. Next time, instead of waiting till I get to an 8 or a 9 or a 10, when I get to a 6 or a 7, I'm going to go and get a little bit of help and put some support in place.
Yeah.
Be proactive about it rather than just going, right, I'm good again. I'm going to wait till things get really bad and then go back to square one. So I think that proactive approach, I think, was something that stood out for me, mate, and something that I'll definitely put my hand up and say I've got to be better at, because
communication, though, right?
We can all be guilty of just pushing, and then go, oh yeah, I'm really bad at the moment. I've got to do something about it, rather than just implementing proactive sort of parts of your day, parts of your week that just helps you stay on top of things.
Yeah. Easier said than done sometimes, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I know, like, you've been working on a lot this year with your physical pain and doing a lot more stuff regularly, rather than us going on a whole roadshow away and then going, right, I'm not in a good place now. Now I've got to have a week off to get back on top of it.
To get back on top of it, yeah. I think it's like one of the best definitions I've ever heard of resilience is the ability to allocate time for recovery in your life. Like, that's like having the discipline to be able to carve out time for yourself so that it doesn't get to that point, like you say, where you're boiling point, and then you're expecting everybody just to understand what you're going through and why you're behaving the way you're behaving, because often when you're feeling like that, the communication goes down the shitter. So then you just sort of shut up and you're just a little bit of a shit person to be around. And, that conversation with Mike, I found it really relatable. And I'm again, hats off, like all the guests, hats off for... And knowing Mike's, it's not a normal thing for him to do. And probably when we asked him, I dare say when I asked him to come on, I reckon he felt like probably had a bit of a physical response, as if to say, "Oh shit, I don't know about that." Like, he didn't. I don't think he was overly happy about it. But then with a little bit of reassurance and saying to him, look, anything, and like with all, I guess, anything that you don't want to talk about. Obviously, he delved into the stuff with his sister, which was really really raw for him.
Yeah.
And there were some other things that we didn't even cover that I know, but overall he was really open and honest about his experiences, and spoke to him afterwards, and he was pretty happy with the conversation too. So hopefully people get a bit out of that and can relate.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, that how also being aware of things in your life that can trigger you, like how he moved sort of jobs and moved his work away from home so that he wasn't driving past those triggering locations, and I think we can all learn something from that, because there are elements of our life, and you don't forget things that happen, or big things that have occurred that make you feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And it's not that you can make them disappear, but just being aware that, all right, when this month comes around, or when this time of year comes around,
absolutely, Christmas and those sorts of things.
Yeah, that's it. That might be
negative
triggering
feelings for people. Absolutely, yeah.
When I go to this certain location, that's going to be triggering because this event happened at that spot. So being aware of that, I think is
I had a weird
cool.
moment the other day where I don't think 6 months in hospital, and a lot of it was very blurry as an 18-year-old, but PTSD is not something that I've ever really, I've never been diagnosed, but I'm sure there's elements, right? And I wouldn't say the word flashback ever comes. I never wake up in the middle of the night, with sweats or anything like that, and memories that come flooding back or anything. But I was with my wife, and we went up an elevator just in a shopping centre, and I had this really distinct, clear visual when we're in the elevator, because that's how they get around the Alfred Hospital, is like, you're going down for a scan or whatever. And I had this moment where I kind of had this real well up of stress and anxiety when, for whatever reason, I pressed the button and it made this noise, and all of a sudden it started coming flooding back. And I'm not saying that sent me into a spiral or anything, but it just was the first time, I must say, which is unusual. I would think that there'd be more, but I've never had an issue going into hospitals and doing peer support, returning to a hospital. I've never thought, I can't go back there because I've got bad experiences there. It's never been a real challenge. But just that one little thing around pressing the button of the elevator had this incredible flashback of when I was 18, I'm lying down, I can't lift my head off the pillow. There's all these bright lights, and it was just a weird feeling. So for people that do suffer, when it comes, whether it's a war-related thing or a traumatic injury, if you have got those things and those triggers coming back regularly, you can see why it can be, really challenging to deal with.
Isn't it amazing how the body can hear that one tiny noise that might have been
conditioned,
slightly different to every other elevator you've been in.
Yeah.
That might have just sounded that little bit more like the lifts in the Alfred.
It was almost like it was a bit of the bell, but there was a lighting or something to do with the lighting as well. I think the lights, because I was always laying down, right, looking up at all the bright lights all the time.
Yep.
I think it was probably a combination of the two. I couldn't put my finger on it. But as I said, it didn't sort of sit there, and I didn't end up in this spiral of, reliving or dragging up all these memories that I've got that maybe I don't, revisit from, on a regular basis. But it was just something that really popped up, and that conversation we had with Mike where he spoke about that, and some of the things he's experienced in the past and how that still has an impact on him. Being mindful and aware of what certain things that trigger you, but also when they trigger you, the behaviour that you then display, whether it's to your family or to people around you or the people you care about, if that's a negative behaviour, being aware of the triggers is really important.
Big time. And it probably helped for you in that situation that you're at the shops. Like the lift opens and you've then got to go, right, snap back, we're at the shops. Whereas maybe if that trigger had have occurred when you're in more of a moment to yourself, maybe it lasts a little bit longer.
I think that helped having someone with me. Because the moment it happened, I sort of said to Anna, that was fucking weird. Like, I had this like really, deja vu. It's sort of similar to that where it was like, I've been here before. It was just a strange thing. Having been by myself, I probably reckon it would have been maybe a little bit more challenging to deal with, but being able to have Andrea there to have a bit of a chat and say that was strange, that's what I just felt then, and unpack it and talk about it straight away was good.
Yeah, nice. And again, that's testament to doing what we talk about, which is not letting it bottle up. Yeah. Just go, right, I'm just going to tip this little bit straight out of the bottle so it doesn't end up staying in there and adding to other stuff. So, yeah, nice, mate. And then our last one was obviously the $1 Million Man, Tommy Boyd, which was probably a little bit different in terms of obviously the story to a lot of the other stories we've had, because it was an experience and a story that was played out so much in the media, in the spotlight, higher profile to most of our other guests. And I think that in itself and the impact that had on his mental health, his insomnia was fascinating. But the way he spoke about mental health and what we can be doing to support people better, and what's working, what's not, I think for me was just as fascinating as the story itself.
Yeah, Benny, Tommy for me was a wonderful guest to have on. We normally don't get high-profile celebrity people on the podcast, but it was a wonderful get because he's had this amazing journey through elite sport and now does some wonderful work in the mental health space. And you mentioned before about when it come to Wardy's episode and being hit by a truck and obviously losing your eyesight overnight or losing your legs overnight and that sort of stuff, how it's probably sometimes a little bit unrelatable. His journey in some ways is unrelatable, but it's also doesn't necessarily make it any easier for him. Whilst it's sort of, everything's been thrown at him, the pressure associated with that and the way he was able to unpack that story must have been pretty immense for a young man to be able to handle that. And then everything that came with that. So all of the flow-on effects, the way that he spoke about insomnia and the way his body broke down and et cetera, et cetera. From the outside looking in, it's a little bit of a hero's journey. He gets this amazing sort of, start to his football career, and that culminates into a premiership winning a premiership at the Western Bulldogs, your boys, which was a pretty awesome story, high profile story. But instead of going there and speaking about his football journey, he's got an incredibly rich understanding of the mental health landscape, what works, what doesn't work, and strong opinions on what needs to change in order to help people in a more effective way. So I think rather, the story side of it was quite fascinating, but I think a lot of people will get a lot out of Tom's depth of knowledge and the way that he was able to beautifully articulate, his views on the mental health space as well.
Yeah, and the one sort of thing that I think he highlighted that people are doing well, I think is something that we all just need to keep doing, and that is tapping into the communities that are already out there.
Yeah.
So when he was talking about how for a lot of sort of rural and regional towns, but it's no different in the suburbs as well, that whether it's your sporting club, footy club, netball club, whatever that sort of community hub is, really leveraging the fact that people feel comfortable in that space and tapping into supporting the mental health and wellbeing of those people while they're there, because it's a lot easier to do that in an environment that people feel comfortable, know one another, they're more likely to come and get involved rather than them putting their hand up to go to a random mental health information session that isn't connected to something that they care so deeply about and are a part of.
Yep.
So I think that is something that clubs right around the country and communities right around the country are doing. But I think from what Tom said, just keep doing it, because that is where people are more willing to come that probably aren't as willing to come and put their hand up and put themselves out in sort of a more confronting style session. So I think that was something that, I mean, we've found works with our footy club sessions, that a lot of people have said to us afterwards, I probably wouldn't have been here if I had have known what it was about, but I got so much out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tapping into that
is
something that was really cool too.
And also just relatable. He's a great storyteller. He's got a real presence about him when he's presenting. And like we said before, the profile, that gets people in the door. But then he's got some wonderful information to give them too on his thoughts on how people can, battle or not battle. People can get through the battles that they're facing in life. And as you said before, sporting clubs, what a great place to start. That's the glue of a lot of communities in rural and regional Australia. You develop friendships throughout your life in school, in sporting clubs, at work. Those are the places where, you are supported by people that are, that have common interests that you get along with. And if you're able to, to impart some really great wisdom, I don't want to say captive audience, but in a place where people feel comfortable and confident, gathering together as a community, I think that's a wonderful forum to be at.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great yarn to finish on. Yes, in the media, he's probably been given 100 different titles, and the $1 Million Man was one that got thrown around a heap, which we obviously spoke about with him, and the associated pressure that came along with that. But as he said, there was times there where he was down surfing on a weekend with one of his mates from the club that was a rookie on $50,000 a year. He's on $1 million a year. At the end of the day, yes, he had some guilt around that and whatnot, but they were both just people.
Yep.
And every single person we've had on in season 2 of Talkin Tough, in season 1 of Talkin Tough, we are all just people. And I think we say it, mate, in all of our live sessions, every single person in this room has a story.
Absolutely.
And the stories that those people hear on that night when you and I speak, it's just 2 stories in a room full of stories. And our listeners out there have had the privilege, just as we have had, mate, behind the mics, to hear some amazing stories from people from all different walks of life. You right there, mate? You dying or you good?
Excuse me. I'm all good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, mate, Benny, this season has been a fantastic one from where I sit, hopefully from where you sit as well. There's been some great guests. Always learn something throughout the seasons that we're recording. Season 1, I've got fond memories of some of the guests there and all the guests. And then on season 2, you get the unpack. You get all the different walks of life, people's experience at the very start. They get to unpack it. You hear that firsthand. You see the ice start to break after about the 10-minute mark when you're actually sitting down with someone who's not used to being in that environment. They settle in, and then all of a sudden you get that wonderful wisdom at the end. So it's always a pleasure. I look forward to, uncovering some more gems for season 3 down the track. And it's been great sitting across from you, sharing the mic, and also these one-on-one chats that we get to have, which are pretty raw and open and honest. They're always pretty helpful too on a personal level, but also hopefully people get a bit of insight into, the day-to-day lives of a legless and a blind bloke.
Absolutely, mate. Like you said, big shout out again. Thank you to each and every guest that has been a part of Season 2. Big thank you again to Ski for Life.
Yep.
This podcast season would not be possible without their support. It's been proudly brought to you by them. If you don't know about Ski for Life, make sure in the show notes below you can check them out, check out what they do. They do some great work. They've got community grants available for different mental health wellbeing initiatives. If you are planning something, get in touch with them. And as you said, mate, feel free to get in touch with us. Let us know what you've enjoyed, what you've taken out of it, and why. And then most importantly, I think there's only one way to finish Season 2 of Talkin Tough, and that is by saying, love yous.
Love yous.
As always, if anything in today's episode has triggered you in any way or made you feel a certain way, make sure you pick up a phone, ring a mate, ring a professional, or you can always call Lifeline on 13 11 14. Take care, and we'll catch you soon.